As long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. So said Pythagoras, mathematician, philosopher, and the world's first marquee vegetarian. George Bernard Shaw put it more simply. Animals are my friends, he said, and I don't eat my friends. To eat or not to eat animals, we have been debating the idea for more than 2,000 years. But in the last 50 years, the rights of animals have moved from the realm of philosophy to our dining room tables and the streets. Today, a third of Canadians eat much less or no meat at all. Some on the advice of their doctor, but an increasing number are saying they can't support an industry whose practices they regard as cruel. On a blazing hot day last summer, the issue came to a showdown. 45-year-old Anita Krajnc was giving water to pigs in a truck on their way to slaughter. She was charged with criminal mischief. Maximum sentence, 6 months in jail. She is awaiting trial. Dr. Krajnc, a Ph.D. in political science from the University of Toronto, was leading the group she founded. It's called Toronto Pig Save, in a vigil outside Fearman's Slaughterhouse in Burlington, Ontario. Years ago, she would have been considered a kook waging a lonely battle, but not so much today. Here is Karin Wells with, "These are not humans, you dumb frickin' broad."
They come off the highway, and then they stop here, and then they turn into the slaughterhouse right there. So the trucks come in there, and they unload. And then there's a CO2 gas chamber. All the big slaughterhouses use it. Quick mass industrial killing. So the pigs go into an elevator compartment. Then they are unconscious for a minute or two. There's a shackler that grabs one of their legs and then hangs them upside down. And then they're stuck.
It's not a pretty picture, the way pigs are slaughtered. Anita Krajnc has it down, chapter and verse.
And then a sticker puts a knife in their throat and they're bled. Still alive. They want them alive.
As many as 10,000 pigs are slaughtered every day at Fearman's, the biggest pig abattoir in Ontario.
What our group does is we bear witness to animals just before they go to the slaughterhouse. They can smell blood and guts, so they know what's happening. They're aware.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The trucks delivering the pigs will be coming off the highway in the next half hour or so.
This morning we have 4 activists at our vigil.
They call themselves Toronto Pig Save.
We stand on the corner of this very busy intersection, Harvester Road and Appleby Line in Burlington. And the trucks stop at a set of lights. While we're waiting for the trucks, we hold signs. Hi.
The little band of activists grows over the morning. Vegans, vegetarians, meat eaters. Krajnc welcomes them all.
Do you guys want to grab some signs?
They wave their signs, and every few minutes passing drivers honk their horns in support.
We started doing weekly vigils July 2011. 2 women.
Back then, Toronto Pig Save was just Krajnc and one other like-minded woman. In 5 years, it has become an international movement.
We were the first save group, Toronto Pig Save. Yeah, there's more than 45 save groups now. And
there are pig save groups from Melbourne to Manchester. And since Krajnc was charged, the donations have been pouring in, tens of thousands of dollars.
For the trial.
So you've got money?
Well, Our aim is to put glass walls on slaughterhouses. Paul McCartney said if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everybody would be vegetarian. We update that and say everybody would be vegan and also an activist. So our objective is to move towards a non-violent diet, but also to become activists, advocates, and organizers.
I saw Anita on the news, and it kind of inspired me. I've been vegetarian for 40 years. And I've always kind of just said, okay, that's my thing, but I'm not going to push on other people. And now it's like, no, I'm going to. These are the same as dogs. If there was a bunch of golden retrievers in that truck, you think people would let that happen? It was Anita that inspired me.
My parents came from the former Yugoslavia, and I was born in Toronto, and I went to church. Like, my mother was very religious.
Some of that stuck.
Yes, some of it stuck. I sort of returned to the ethical ideas of religion through Tolstoy.
Tolstoy, who wrote War and Peace, and Anna Karenina, who had a spiritual awakening in his 50s and who became a Christian anarchist, a pacifist, and a vegetarian.
He was a big proponent of nonviolence and a love-based approach to social change. When Gandhi read him in 1893, while he was in South Africa, he decided to pursue nonviolence. That's how important Tolstoy is.
In 2010, with Tolstoy in her head and her mother's dog on the end of a leash, Krajnc went for morning walks in Toronto. Every day, she saw transport trucks loaded with pigs looking out through the air holes.
Instead of saying, well, why doesn't somebody do something, I and a number of other people started Toronto Pig Safe. And then I studied the early American labor movement and the civil rights movement for lessons.
Tolstoy provided the principles, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, the American labor movement, the strategy.
So, yeah, my PhD was on learning and how social movements raise consciousness, different social movement strategies, like community organizing, public education campaigns. You need to be on the ground regularly, so you don't organize a protest once a year. I promised the pigs a minimum of 3 vigils a week. People thought initially, oh, that's a lot, you're going to get burnt out, but that hasn't happened at all.
350 vigils later, more and more people keep showing up.
So we just have a bunch of people joining us. Hi. Great. Oh, all these people are vegan outreach. It's a big group in the U.S. that leaflets at campuses.
One of the young men visiting from Chicago handed out 175,000 leaflets last year alone.
Do you guys want to grab some signs?
4 of the group move out onto the tiny traffic island in the middle of the road to wait for the pig trucks. In the meantime, they offer leaflets to drivers stopped at the lights. A surprising number roll down their windows and take them. Leafleting, in the summer giving water to pigs. This is what Krajnc has done for the last 5 years, with no problems. June 22nd last year, things changed. That day, the temperature hit 28 degrees.
So is this where you were last summer?
That's right. So I was on the traffic island right here, and a truck stopped. The pigs were panting heavily in the scorching heat. And so I said, let's give them water. And the trucker jumped out of the cab and came up to us and said, don't give them water.
The trucker's name was Jeff. Toronto Pig Save videotaped the whole thing.
Can you give this guy some water?
God, put water in there.
If you give them thirsty, Jesus said, if you're thirsty, you give them water.
No,
if you're homeless,
you know what? These are not humans, you dumb frickin' broad. Hello? You know what? Now we're going to call the cops.
Have some compassion.
What do we do?
Jesus.
911?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. What do you got in that water?
Water.
No. That's mine.
Yeah?
Don't put it in there again. You do it again and I'll slap it out of your hands.
Go ahead. If you want to do it.
He didn't. He called the police, got back in his truck, and drove the pigs to slaughter.
A couple of months later, in September, a Toronto officer came to my home and issued me a summons charging me with criminal mischief.
The pigs in that truck were owned by a farmer named Eric Van Bukel. Van Bukel has twice been convicted of environmental offences stemming from manure spills on his farms. This time, he had the upper hand and he pursued his complaint against Krajnc
Like, I can't believe they would be charging me for this.
for giving water to pigs. No one was ready for what happened next.
It's like I had no idea. It went viral on social media. There's a woman in Massachusetts who set up a Facebook group called Compassion is Not a Crime. Another woman in California designed a t-shirt. There were activists in Argentina and Portugal, who did demonstrations in front of the Canadian embassy. I didn't expect any of this. Then a lawyer stepped forward and said he would represent me. So I have 2 vegan lawyers working for me pro bono, and they're top criminal lawyers, James Silver and Gary Grill.
I'm James Silver. I'm counsel to Anita.
I'm Gary Grill. I'm also counsel to Anita. There's a lot of us out there from all walks of life. Lawyers, doctors, police officers who are all vegan. From my perspective, Anita is walking the moral high ground. And it's always nice to have a client who's got the moral high ground.
So I'm charged with interference with the use, enjoyment, and operation of property, and the property refers to the pigs.
Are pigs property?
Yes. If a pig was being kept as a pet, they would have rights under the criminal law. If a pig is being kept for human consumption, then no, they are considered just property.
There have been charges of animal cruelty laid against farmers, but not many, and only when a whistleblower gets inside the barn. There are different expectations when it comes to pets.
So, for example, if I see that someone on a hot day has locked their dog in a car, I'm entitled and encouraged to go and help that dog. If somebody's monkey is running around at IKEA, okay, well, that person ought to expect that that monkey is not going to be theirs for much longer and will, in fact, be relocated to a sanctuary. What about pigs?
There are regulations governing the transportation of pigs. It is a $3 billion industry, and the assumption is that, hot day or not, there's no need for Good Samaritans. But there's another question. Given that Anita Krajnc had been giving water to pigs for the past 5 summers, and everyone knew it, why was she charged this time?
And it might be because Anita's group and people like her are becoming more and more numerous, and they can no longer be ignored.
If you wouldn't mind, there's a little postcard in there. If you would send it, it goes to the Minister of Agriculture, just to say that you don't approve of their treatment.
Oh, I can do that? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that for
that'd
sure.
be awesome.
I'll take another one.
Oh, yeah. Take as many.
Increasingly, vegans, vegetarians, even hardcore carnivores are asking questions about the quality of life of farm animals.
My name is Mike von Massow. I'm an associate professor in the College of Business and Economics.
At the University of Guelph, the country's leading centre for the study of animal health, animal welfare, and the business of meat production.
I spend most of my day thinking about food and how we make food decisions. Among those decisions is what role animal welfare plays in how we decide what to eat. You really have 2 perspectives on animal welfare. The group who thinks we shouldn't farm or eat animals at all, but what we're seeing is increasingly meat eaters are also paying attention to how these animals are raised. We've seen in the last 2 years quadrupling of the concern for animal welfare amongst consumers who eat meat. One of the things that we do is we give people, in a survey, we give them 100 points and say, assign them to what you think about when you're making choices, either in a grocery store or we also look at restaurants. And we've seen more people tell us that animal welfare is more important. So there's been a growth in not only how many people assign points to animal welfare, but also a growth in how many points they assign. Now, a survey done this fall, that concerned group is now 65% of the population. It's a majority of the people who say, we think that animal welfare should be a consideration in meat production.
Customers want to know that their steak, their eggs, their bacon has been well looked after. Today, animal welfare counts big time. 50 years ago, no one cared.
My name is Ian Duncan. I'm Emeritus Chair in Animal Welfare at the University of Guelph, and I've been working on animal welfare problems since 1964, so a long time. It was shortly after Ruth Harrison published a book called Animal Machines, and there was a huge public outcry in the UK, and the British government...
A government inquiry found that Ruth Harrison had a point. With the growth of factory farming, veal crates for calves, battery cages for hens, perpetual pregnancy for dairy cows, animals were suffering. Ruth Harrison's book was to animal welfare what Rachel Carson's Silent Spring was to the environmental movement.
Absolutely, and in fact, Rachel Carson wrote the foreword to Ruth Harrison's book.
Back then, Ian Duncan was a graduate student in poultry research in Edinburgh, a young man in search of a thesis topic.
So I set out to find out if hens in battery cages, the usual way of producing eggs at that time, if they are frustrated or not.
He was one of the first in the world to advocate a scientific approach to animal welfare.
I think for the first 20 years, one or two of us, I thought, were crying in the wilderness. But gradually people started to take notice. Suddenly we've reached a tipping point and things are changing very quickly. People like me were talking about animals' feelings, which was at that time regarded as completely out with the scope of science. In fact, it's not. I have developed ways of asking hens what they feel about the things that we do to them and the procedures that they're subjected to. But animals can tell us how they feel.
They feel pain, are afraid, feel happy. Ask any dog owner. Philosophers, animal welfare scientists have long argued that dogs, chickens, pigs are sentient beings, something the European Union, Switzerland, New Zealand have enshrined in law, boosting animals up the ladder of legal status, putting them somewhere between a thing and a person. It's a difficult issue.
It's an extremely difficult issue.
My job is to try and answer or get some scientific backing for some of those really tough emotional questions within animal welfare. We're all in agreement that we can use animals to different degrees, but we use them without causing them a great deal of suffering or any suffering if possible. My name is Tina Wadowski. I'm director of the Campbell Centre for the Study of Animal Welfare, and I'm also the Egg Farmers of Canada Research Chair in Poultry Welfare. I grew up in the same lab as Temple Grandin. We were there at the same time, doing our PhDs together.
Temple Grandin, the rock star of animal welfare, proponent not only of the rights of people with autism, but leading advocate for more humane standards in slaughterhouses. Grandin and other leading animal welfare scientists sit on a growing number of corporate committees on animal welfare. McDonald's, pushed by animal rights activists, set up the first in 1999. Now, Yum, owner of KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, has one. Nestlé's, maker of Gerber baby food, Kit Kat bars, Carnation milk, to name a few, formed an international partnership with an animal welfare NGO just over a year ago. Around the same time, Starbucks announced it would be concentrating on food made from cage-free eggs and that its animals will be anesthetized before they are dehorned or castrated. It's what consumers want.
Consumers are funny because they want certain things for the animals or the animal products that they purchase. They're not always willing to pay for them. California, several years ago, passed Proposition 2, which prohibits laying hens in cages. I think 68% or something like that voted for Proposition 2. At the same time, only about 5% of the market was free-range or cage-free eggs. 68% will vote for something, but only 5% will pay for something.
And housing for hens is a relatively simple issue in the world of animal welfare.
The other thing that is a problem is quality of life. How do you define good quality of life? Is it healthy? Is it freedom? And people have different values for what constitutes a good life for animals. We can't agree not only on what constitutes a good quality of life for people, Now we have to do it for another species of animal. So our job is to try and get into their heads.
Beef that was not so much in Canada, but beef that is raised on pasture. These animals have a really quite a good life, and as long as the end of their life is humane, if they're killed in a humane way, then there is very little suffering involved.
That's where animal welfare scientists and vegan activists like Anita Krajnc part company. For Krajnc, slaughter is a non-starter. For animal welfare scientists, it's a given. Their job is to supply the evidence that promotes a good, albeit short life for animals, a life without pain and without fear. Isn't the ultimate fear the fear of being killed?
For humans, potentially. For animals, and perhaps there are other scientists that might disagree with me, we do not have good evidence that animals have any concept of death or have any idea that they are going to their death.
It depends on the suffering up until the point of slaughter. If someone came up behind me with a loaded gun and blew my brains out, and I wasn't aware of the fact, that wouldn't reduce my welfare at all. 1 minute I'm here having a good conversation with you, and the next minute I'm dead. I think animals live much more in the present. But if we decide that we're going to slaughter them and we transport them in very adverse conditions, perhaps on a day like this when it's very cold, they've been deprived of food and water, yes, all of these things are going to reduce their welfare, and reduce their welfare a lot. I've often said that of all the things we do to our agricultural animals, the things we do to them in their last 24 hours of life reduces their welfare the most.
Multinational food corporations are changing their attitude to animal welfare in response to consumer demand, but government livestock transportation regulations haven't changed substantially in 37 years.
In Canada, you can transport pigs for 35 hours without water or food. In Europe, they have water on trucks and they have climate control. But at the end of the day, a group like ours, we don't promote welfarism. We don't criticize animal welfare groups. But at the same time, that's not our focus. Our focus is on people transitioning to a non-violent, plant-based or vegan diet. There are so many reasons, like for people to move to our plant-based diet. It's find it astonishing.
Good morning.
Good.
An unlikely visitor joins Anita Krajnc and the group on the traffic island.
I'm as a replacement driver.
You're a driver?
Yeah. I deliver to Fearman's sometimes. I should be able to get in there within the next month.
This man drives one of the trucks that takes the pigs to slaughter. He came by a Toronto Pig Save vigil a couple of weeks earlier and told Krajnc that on his next delivery he would get some video from inside the slaughterhouse.
They haven't said anything about my cell phone sticking out of my pocket, so I'm going to try and get some video.
Krajnc knows there's nothing better for the cause than a little graphic footage.
I mean, it's hard seeing it and not doing it, walking.
Yeah, I want to document the pigs screaming. I've seen the pen area at Quality Meat Packers in Toronto because I would go along the railway lines. There would be windows to the pen area and the kill floor. So I actually have footage of
but she doesn't have any footage from Fearman's. There's no suggestion that regulations are being violated. She wants the pictures to show just what goes on in a slaughterhouse every day. Suddenly, heads turn toward the highway.
Two trucks?
Two trucks coming in. It's trucks with pigs.
They come down the hill, catch the red light and stop. Two of the people on the traffic island reach into the truck through the open holes and stroke the pigs. The pigs move around, push their pink snouts towards the hands.
Sweetheart. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't be in there. I should be in there, sweeties. We're fighting for you, okay? We're fighting for you. Yes, you're a good piggy.
Tears pour down the woman's face.
Makes you sad. Well, it does all the time, but I haven't been able to face it until recently. But now I'm like, well, you just got to do it, right?
The driver watches in his rearview mirror. The light changes, and he turns left and drives the pigs into the slaughterhouse. When is the trial set for?
It's set for late August. We have 5 days set in late August. The Crown said their case is going to take about an hour or two. It's the defense that's going to take 4.5 days. Do we exist in society where we can actually treat a being that feels pain and suffers in the same way we would treat a widget?
Whether they're property or not, we still have the same obligations towards them to minimize their suffering. Is it a mischief to give a pig water on a hot day? Whether these creatures are someone's property or not, it's kind of a ridiculous question.
The Crown Attorney, Jeff the confrontational truck driver, and Van Bukel the hog farmer clearly hope not. Anita Krajnc is not about to upend the multi-billion-dollar hog industry in Canada, but there's a good chance that her trial will add to the pressure to reform livestock transport regulation, and an even better chance that more and more people will show up to those vigils on the side of the road.
Nobody knew who Anita was until she got charged. She might even say it was the best thing that ever happened to her for the plight of her pigs.
In Burlington, Ontario, for the Sunday edition, I'm Karin Wells.
One of my friends from Melbourne Pig Save said, I can't imagine a person being charged on a better charge for the movement. You know, sometimes we thank Jeff and Von Bukel for laying those charges.